Well, just first of all, I'd like to thank God for blessing this team. We talked a lot during the season about how tough the process is, and sometimes you don't see the results right away, and that was a true definition of the beginning of our conference season. I think we started out 2-6, and we were right there in most games. We just couldn't get over the hump, but once good things started happening to this team, the confidence rose, the egos a little bit started coming into play, and kids just started stepping up and really making big plays for us, and we became the team that I thought we could be all along. So just really proud of our players, appreciative of my coaching staff, just do an amazing job. And so we're very thankful to have finished the season where we did, but we're definitely not finished yet, and we have high hopes for this coming week.
Talk about the growth that your team has experienced over the last, 3-4 weeks. Like you said, finishing the season on 7 of 10.
Well, I think it's obvious. I mean, I could see a little bit when I stepped back, even when we were struggling to win games. But I think that it's pretty evident how well we're playing together. We do rely on Evelyn and Macy and Janika as of late to step up and be our scorers. But the shots that Lex has made, the offense that's come on for Crane. Max come in and giving us good minutes, a big offensive rebound here and there. And then I thought Alexa's played probably her best game of the year Saturday. And it's not necessarily going to show up in the stats, but she just did so many things. And, of course, defensively, I look at what they're doing defensively as much as anything, and she was always in the right place and just gave us big minutes. And then Michaela, in the UT Martin game, makes a big three. And the Austin P game makes a big three. So we have so many people contributing now that maybe we didn't have when we were going through our tough stretches.
You talk about, and again, I know you don't want to point to one particular player, but the last 10 games for Janika, I feel like there's a direct correlation for her scoring and her ability to move the basketball. I know she's dealt with some turnovers, but her turnaround on her three-point shot has really opened up this team for other things.
Oh, absolutely. I think she was about 22%. And I think she's shooting right at 45% now. Just a complete turnaround. And I'm going to tell you, it's the 6 inches between her ears because her shot hasn't changed. She still has side rotation. It doesn't look great, but it's going in. And I think a lot of that is her confidence. She's just playing with a high rate of confidence right now, kind of playing with a little swag that we need her to play with. And she is the one player on our team that if we need a bucket, she can go get one. And, we have other players that need maybe someone to create that shot for them. But right now, if the game's on the line or we need a bucket, she's the one that I want the ball in her hands for sure.
Is confidence the reason that the games that were slipping away early on, suddenly it looks like even if a lead starts to get chipped into, they seem to know we're going to find a way to get this done?
I think so, and I think what it took is for it to happen to them one time. You get in this rut and you lose, and and the expectations seem to be that way no matter how much you talk about that's not the expectation. But once we were finally able to take a surge at the end and be able to put that game away, I think the UT Martin game was huge for us. And since then, they just have a different attitude. And I mean, I'm the one that's probably freaking out more than they are on the sidelines, watching the lead dwindle, and here we go again, and those type of things. But even in the timeout, you can just tell by the looks on their faces that they're motivated to find a way. And I think that just shows the maturity that we've had this year and the growth of each player.
First 8 games, you've talked about a culture change in the last 5 weeks of the season. Anything in particular you can point to what shifted to lead to this stretch?
The ability for them to come together and pull for each other. The culture of our basketball team right now is what I've been trying to get since I got here. And the upperclassmen and the way that they pull for these freshmen and the way the freshmen look too and pull for the upperclassmen, and just being able to come together, because there are some kids on our team that don't get to play very much. But if you watch the games, they're the biggest cheerleaders. They're the ones that prepare us every single day in practice. And so it's just a cumulative effort, and all the credit goes to our players.
How much confidence can be generated from the fact that you're facing Martin in the tournament, but you beat them once, and the girls know that that is something that they can do?
Well, I think that's huge. I think the fact that we got over that hump and we're able to beat them and gives us confidence. But we also know that they're a very good basketball team. Their depth obviously running 5 in, 5 out, playing up to 12 to 15 kids. When we're playing about 5 or 6, we know that could be an issue, because I felt like in that game we were as much mentally fatigued causing our mistakes as we were physically fatigued. But that's not going to change. Our rotation's not going to change a whole lot. Their rotation's not going to change a whole lot. So we know the challenge that they bring. But I think our players are pulling from these successes, and it's making their confidence go up. So the fact that we beat them and we know we can will go a long way this week.
Preparation-wise, a lot of these girls are experiencing this for the first time, some from last year. Do you approach it any differently from what you did last year, or maybe from what you've learned from your first experience in the OVC tournament compared to going into the second time?
Well, I think I just have to remember that this is going to be a first for most. I mean, you know, Janika and Crane are the only two that have any experience whatsoever going into this. And I think my mindset and my approach is going to go a long way in helping them become ready for this. And I think it's got to be positive. I think that we've got to continue to be positive, continue to breed confidence in them, continue to pump them up, get them excited about what we're going to do, but also make sure that we're not satisfied. But that's the thing about this bunch, is they're not satisfied. I mean, I think we're just now realizing the type of team that we can be, and they're excited, and they want to extend this as far as we can.
How much will, I mean, your 3 Murray girls, it's your first OVC tournament, but they're used to postseason tournament and the pressures of that. How much will that help them this week?
Well, I believe it'll help a lot, because, you know, when you've been on a big stage, no matter what level, every time you can get that opportunity, it's going to help you. And those 3 kids have certainly been on big stages throughout their whole career. Now, this is a totally different animal, and they understand that. But their ability to be calm in these situations, I think, will go a long way. And I also think it'll help their teammates to be able to deal with that, because our players really rely on each other. And I think that they can the other players can gain some valuable experience just from talking to our players about being in those situations.
Kind of on an offside, I have seen more emotion out of Macy Turley in the last month than I've seen her entire career. Some of it frustration, some of it excitement. How do you feel like she's motoring through emotions and dealing with the struggles of being one of the smaller players on the court, but also being one of the more successful players that get targeted a lot?
Well, Macy's competitive, and so you know, that's going to come out a little bit. And the older she's gotten, the more that's come out a little bit, and probably from hanging out with her coach, because her coach is pretty animated as well. But I think as much as anything, Macy's emotion comes from she doesn't want to let me down. You can tell by the look on her face if she feels like that she's not made the right play or the right decision, that she's like, you know, my bad, coach, I got you. But that's just the type of kid that she is, and competitor. But I do think that there's been frustration at times, and I think that comes from sometimes the lack of calls that she gets, and then goes on the other end, and that call seems to go against her. And, you know, we talk to her about that a lot to try to maintain her emotions and to keep it in check. But when you're as competitive as she is, and she feels like that it's going one way and not the other, I think that wears on you after a while. But, you know, I kind of like the emotion. I wanted it for a long time, 7th, 8th, 9th grade a little bit. So I just love her competitive spirit, and she's going to give you everything she's got. But, you know, she will learn and she will grow to understand that you have to accept the ebb and flow of the game, and sometimes you get the call and sometimes you don't. But I think that'll be something that she matures into as she gets older at the Division I level.
I know hindsight's a tough weapon, but some of the conference losses, you know, as well as anybody, 1 and 2 possessions. Do you use that as motivation even further this week, saying, hey, we were this close to 11, 12 conference wins?
Oh, I think you have to, because every possession matters, and, you know, you have to play every single game like it's going to be your last. And we've talked a lot about that in the last half of this season. And I even gave them a poem, and it says it's something to the effect of, it's just one play, coach. Well, basically, it comes down to the fact that one play cost you the game, or it could cost you the game. So we talk a lot about that not one thing's going to make or break us, but accumulation of things, if we don't do them correctly, will. So we break everything down. Like, we break our games down into 5-minute segments, obviously, because you can't look at the whole picture. And sometimes when you overwhelm them with the whole picture, it's a little bit too much. So we try to break it down, and we try to win certain minutes of the game, and we'll continue to do that. We won't change that, because I feel like our kids have really bought into that in the last half of the season.
With how much Martin's pressure bothered you all, particularly late in that 4th quarter in the last meeting, how big of a priority is it for you all this week during practice to be able to handle that full court pressure?
Well, I think it's evident that it's a huge priority, and it's not just Martin's pressure. Everybody's pressure has seemed to bother us. But what is when you go back and watch the film, it's like the pressure doesn't really, it's there, but it doesn't really bother us at the beginning of the game. But as the game wears on, and again, I go back to the fact that we are mentally and physically tired. These kids are playing 38, 39, 40 minutes a game, and that relentless pressure's been going on the whole game. So whereas it doesn't show up as much in the first half, it starts to creep in a little bit in the third and definitely late in the fourth quarter. So, we're trying to find ways to get them breaks throughout the game in certain times, and we'll need to do that on Thursday as well. But taking care of the basketball is going to be one of the main focal points this week. I think it has to be because I expect Martin to be pressing us when we get to Evansville.